Hello, and welcome back to Season 2, Episode 125 of Paranormal NL Podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Pocket Casts, and YouTube. I'm your host, Jen. For tonight's show, let's give a few shout-outs to some Paranormal NL Podcast Alumni-Network guests who know tonight's guest, which I'll introduce very shortly. A big shout-out to Patty Nagri from Season 2, Episode 79. A big shout out again to Mike Hickey from Terra Nova on NTV and the NTV Plus app, who was on Paranormal NL Podcast Season 2, Episode 19. And also a huge shout out to Henry Crane from Belle Island Tourism, who was on a two-part episode in Season 1, Episode 8 about Belle Island ghosts, and he came back on Season 2, Episode 3 about the Belle Island boom. Now it's time to pull up your cozy chair and listen in to your favorite podcast. Paranormal NL Podcast is a place where the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, Canada, and anywhere else in the world can share their paranormal experiences. PNL Podcast also believes in supporting people, places, and things to promote paranormal tourism and paranormal networking all over the world. A big thank you again to all the PNL Podcast alumni guests from Season 1 and 2, and of course our fans. We want to hear your stories. Do you have any paranormal, metaphysical, UFO, cryptid creatures, folklore, historical books, or just tales of the weird you'd like to share as a guest on my PNL podcast? Please reach out to me on Facebook, Instagram, or Gmail. That's paranormal.nl.podcast@gmail.com. After your episode, you'll become part of the PNL Podcast Alumni-Network. And make sure you click on the bell, like, or subscribe and follow along on whatever platform you're listening in on so you can get up to all the new episodes. And then head on over to Facebook and join our group, Paranormal NL Podcast Group. It's the official place to hang out in a safe space and find upcoming new PNL episodes in the featured section of the group. And we're listening to our fans. PNL Podcast now has a Facebook page for fans who are not on Instagram for Instagram Reel Drops, and a spot for the PNL Bog Team Investigation Facebook Go Lives. That's right, we have a new branch of the Paranormal NL Podcast with the PNL Bog Team. It's a boots-on-the-ground investigation team doing local historical investigations in Newfoundland. And our fans asked us, and Paranormal NL Podcast and the new PNL Bog Team merch are now available on TeePublic with all kinds of different logos to customize your swag items that fans choose to ask for, like handbags and all that good stuff. Now, let's bring on the stage our guest tonight. On StreamYard, we have tonight Corine Carey. Hello.
Hello.
We've got Leanne Sallenback, and we've got Kelly Ireland. Welcome, y'all.
Thanks for having us, Jen.
Thanks for being on the show tonight. Now, I started off a few shout outs with some of the people who you already have met here in Newfoundland and Labrador. And I'm sure you know a lot of other folks who probably have been on the show too. But before all that, let's talk about you guys. Let's talk about Beyond the Haunting Investigations. How did y'all come together? And who wants to start first?
Great question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up. Yeah, so how did we get together? Well, thanks, first of all, for having us on your show tonight. We're excited to have a chat with you tonight. It goes back to basically our childhood, really. So it's a bit of a long story. We'll try to keep it not so long. But yeah, me and Leanne are sisters. And when I was little, I'm the older sister. And so when I was young, I've had these experiences that, people at the time just didn't believe me. And so by the time I was 3 years old, I was in a pretty severe car accident with my grandmother, and
sorry.
It was probably life-changing for a big reason for me. And my grandma actually, it's a long story. Kelly told me to tell the full version, so maybe I'll just tell the version. But so I was in this car accident, yeah, and my grandma used to paint these ceramic gnomes and garden elves and things. And I was in the back seat holding this gnome up, and she got caught, and the door opened. She tried to close the door on a corner, and long story short, she fell out, got dragged by the car. We crashed. I did not have my seatbelt on. I was 3.
Oh, no.
And I remember waking up on the floor of the passenger side front seat, looking up out of the ditch, out of the car, seeing my grandmother look in at me, and I thought she was dead for sure. It's clear as day to this day. anyways, that was the first time I had an experience that I can remember vividly, because in that moment of hysterical, you're 3 years old, I remember the lump on my own head, there was this man beside me. And so this man was there telling me it was going to be okay, which didn't make sense because how was he in the car with me? And from that moment on, my grandmother survived. She lived to be into her 90s. But from that moment on, I saw that man like every day of my life until 2010. So I found out much later that he was our biological grandfather who passed away way before.
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, so that's a big story. But anyway, so I've had experiences since then, and I kept it quiet. I know my parents, when I started talking about this man and what I was seeing, they didn't believe me. Obviously, at the time, they didn't understand. And by the time Leanne came along and I started believing that I had an issue, I had to keep quiet. I had tests and scans and all these things done, and I just learned to be quiet. And so by the time I was 10 or 11 and Leanne started looking and seeing, she was watching what I was seeing, and I'm like, wait a minute, is there something else to this? And then Leanne, I was testing her, and I created this game called Spot the Spirit because I wanted to know if I was using it or if Leanne actually could see. And I'll turn it over to Leanne, but that's kind of my story, how it started. And when Leanne found out, and when she actually passed the test every time, I'm like, there's something more going on. And so that's when I started testing Leanne, and from there, that's how I got started.
Yeah. And Corine kept it very.
What was the test, though? What did she make you do? What was the test?
I could spot the spirit. I could definitely see the spirit. But Corine was very quiet about it growing up. She wouldn't talk about it in public or in school. And I was the kid that shouted it all the time, anywhere I could. I was into the paranormal, the weird, grew up watching X-Files and all those shows, and just absolutely loved it and was never embarrassed by it. And even in high school, by the time Kelly and I were hanging out, she can tell you, I was probably, the one that stood out with the paranormal stuff.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with any of this stuff. We didn't talk about it. If I ever had any experiences myself, I was told shh, don't say that. Shh, don't be weird. No. Right. So then when I met Leanne in high school, we played volleyball together. She said lots of weird things that to me, I was taught to believe were weird. But the more time I spent with her, the more it started to go in, when you're not raised with that sort of thing, it just kind of goes over your head or in and out. But I started spending time at their house, and I would see their dynamic, and I would see how they would talk about things that you can't see with your eyes. Well, most people don't see with their eyes. And then Corine would be seeing things and relaying messages to people, and everybody's crying all the time because they're like, oh my gosh, nobody knew that. And I'm like, what the heck is this? So then they started taking me out to places. And then that's when it was like a fly on the wall, just kind of watching and taking it in and observing and seeing what's going on with them. And then the more and more they took me out to places, I started to realize that I was actually experiencing things, but I guess I had shut it down. The more we talked about this stuff, late nights talking about these things, then I started having things come back from my childhood. My dog had died, and that night he came and visited me, despite the fact that my parents said he was just going away. All these things just started coming back. So it started really back as in childhood, those two with their Spot the Spirit game. That was their paranormal investigation in their shared bedroom for Corine to basically prove I'm seeing this. This is real. You don't have to take me to the hospital again. You don't have to check this. And so it sort of expanded, going to different locations. And then when gear started coming up, then it was oh my gosh. For Corine, it was also another way to validate what she was seeing. And so for me, it was a lot to take in. I was like, is this real? So then the more we go, the more I could experience it for myself. Because you know how it is when you hear somebody say something.
I kind of started out like yourself, Kelly, kind of like a skeptic, kind of like, well, Leanne, you mentioned the X-Files, right? The Sculler Mulder. I'm kind of like a mix of that. But Corine, I mean, back to you when you talked about children. I guess it's a well-known fact that people believe that children can see, and they theorize that these people who they think or the adults think are made-up people could be some maybe benevolent family members who are with you. And it's interesting that he stayed with you up until you were in your 20s.
Actually, it was till 2010. So I guess it was my 30s by that point. But
30s. Okay.
Yeah, it was crazy. And to go back to your point, you know, I was that scared little kid. Like, I will admit that. I learned to, like, unlike Leanne, who just like would say whatever, I kept it super quiet because I remember being taken by my parents to have tests done and scans done and like blood work done and all these things done. And when everything came back normal, I'm like, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. So I just learned to stop like telling anybody about it, except for Leanne, because all of a sudden she's like looking at what I'm seeing. And I'm like, what is going on?
Well, that's the thing. It's a known fact also that, you know, a lot of family members are gifted. So for you to play Spot the Ghost is interesting that, Leanne, you witnessed what she was. Like, can you describe some of the things that you co-witnessed together?
Yeah, I remember like a lot of shadows, a lot of like moving, like misty things, but we'd always see it, and we'd like, it was almost a race for who could point it out first, which was like very, like, it was so impressionable for me. And I remember knowing Corine could do so much more, and she'd be able to, like, these people would be talking to her or maybe passing along a message, and she'd keep it quiet. And it was only up until, what do you say, Corine, like 10 years ago, not like maybe less, that you really did embrace it. And so for me, I've been my whole life like, come on, Corine, like, this is like amazing. Like, oh my God, just tell people.
And Kelly, you know, when you were saying about, you know, well, I guess somebody had mentioned the theme of keeping it quiet. Well, here in Newfoundland and Labrador, we're such a small island. Everybody's like, oh, I know who she is. And, oh, did you hear? Like, so everybody knows that this place is haunted AF. Okay. I mean, we've got one of the oldest cities here in North America. You've been to Bell Island. You've experienced it. You know, for me as a nurse, I've been around a lot of death, unfortunately, in several different aspects, whether it be in the emergency room, operation room, or whether it be other places like palliative care, or, you know, I've been and worked in a lot of different specialties. So I've experienced it, kept it to myself, but like you all said, you wonder, and then like Kelly said, you start thinking about on things that happened and you go, right? Maybe there is something to this. But did you, either one of you, want to describe an investigation that you did that kind of sticks out in your head as one of the ones that really, you know, took home to you?
Oh, gosh. I think like in our childhood or like currently?
Oh no, currently, yeah. Like, you've been involved with a lot of investigations and you've been all over the place. And I mean, just name some of the countries you've been to.
Countries? Wow, we've been all over. I've been all over Europe, South America, US. We've all been to Japan. Yeah, we've all been all over. But some of them, I don't know, what investigation? What do you guys think?
I know. So History's Most Haunted, the first season was mainly in North America. So it was Canadian and US locations.
And when you were here, you did U-Boat Island was the name of that episode, if people are looking for it, because it is, you know, actually it was hard to find because I was looking for Bell Island, but it's actually called U-Boat Island, and that's for a reason. If you watch the episode, you'll understand the history behind Bell Island. But Leanne, you were talking about, you know, different places you've been, and maybe one of the ones that stick out in your mind.
Yeah, I mean, you can loop back to Bell Island because that one sticks out in all of our minds for sure.
Does it? I love that.
But in History's Most Haunted, all of the locations were so unique. But to me, the Salem episode stands out just because the idea of what we did there, you know, like there's the 3 women with abilities going in to connect with women who were persecuted for potentially having ability, you know, like just that whole full circle of giving them a voice and maybe leaning into some new history was pretty incredible for sure.
Anything like in particular in that episode that really hit home besides that fact?
Walking the monument was really powerful for me. Just, you know, looking at all the names, looking at all the dates, and how many people, men and women, that were killed during that time. Investigating the seafood house and connecting with Bridget Bishop, that was pretty powerful.
Okay. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of people who are mediums, or not only just women, but men. And there are, you know, witches, you know, and people are afraid to use the W word, but now they're starting to embrace it more. Here in Newfoundland, we just had our first Pagan Passage Festival. which we've never had here before. And, there are, male witches too. And people need to accept the fact that, there's white, there's black, there's all kinds of different things when it's involved with this type of paranormal aspect. What do you think, Kelly?
Yes. Yeah, I agree that the Salem episode was actually, so what's interesting is when people ask us this question, I feel like I answer it different every time, because it's like every location was just so wild. But as of today, today I think I would say San Antonio.
San Antonio. Oh, I love San Antonio. Yeah.
We were down in Texas, right?
Yeah, it was.
That was pretty amazing, because our experience kind of challenged the written history of things, of certain perspectives of who recorded the stories a certain way. So it was eye-opening we went into the Alamo.
Love that place. Yeah.
Saw
bullet holes in the wall.
Say about the episode, but she saw the men there in their final moments and gave a certain number of individuals that was there, and the number that she gave questions the history that's been written. So it was very fascinating for her to be like, in real time, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's this many people here, and I see them, and this is what's happening, and they're being led down here, and this is the end. And it's like we're there in real time, trying to keep her in the moment and ask her questions, and it's just so wild and quick. And we came upon a soul who I guess has been there for a very long time, from the Mexican side of the battle, and he seemingly had been roaming there since back many years, right? So he was able to come through to us, and after the whole exchange, like, he was able to show me where he died, and he was in a ditch and all this stuff. And then as soon as I felt this explosion of energy happen, the ovala said cleansing, and it was like we could feel him leave. And it's just, each location is so unique, and that one for me was particularly powerful.
So, yeah, I mean, that must be nice to be able to feel like you've actually helped somebody. Now, I know when you were there, I don't remember, did you try any different language techniques?
I did not.
No, we did not.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
My Spanish is very limited. We did not try.
You could try a little bit of Tex-Mex, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I do enjoy traveling to different places where people speak different languages and trying to speak the language, some of us.
Yeah, I'm going to be having Spooky Japan come on soon. You all said you were in Japan. Was there anything there that maybe I should ask them about?
There was a couple places, and again, it's names and the language. I'm so sorry, but I believe it was kind of near Matsumoto. It's Matsumoto Castle. There was like a forest area, and it was this big, like, I cannot remember the name. There's this forest, and it was a beautiful museum, and I was there during Cherry Blossom Festival, and we're walking, and instantly I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, and there's crowds of people at this festival, and it was this beautiful place, and I'm like seeing death and gore and destruction, and there's like 5 major, like, giant, like, people, and I'm like, what the hell is happening? And I said out loud, like, I'm like, I see these things, like, this is what's happening, blah blah blah. And as we walked through this beautiful garden, we got into the museum, and at the very last stop in this museum, there's this monument to these 5 gigantic warriors who had, like, saved this area. There's a massive battle. I'm like, I think they're still here. Like, there's so many.
Interesting. So with your clairs, you mostly see things, correct?
I see things and I hear things. Yeah, those are the main 2 things that I can. Okay. Yeah, and I always kind of explain it like, you can kind of start to hear things like, okay, maybe I'm dating my age, but like, back in the day when we had like rabbit ear TVs and the static, so it's kind of like that static sound, and you're trying to listen for the words as they come in a little bit more in focus. And at the same time, I'm seeing things in my left peripheral vision, almost like a movie reel of images that you're trying to interpret.
Right.
So you're constantly trying to interpret what you're seeing, and then you'll see them, and it's like, what? Like, so it's kind of overwhelming when I experience in the moment those kind of things.
Leanne, I don't remember those rabbit ear TVs, if you were wondering.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the rabbit ears. We were the TV remotes, right, Corinne?
Yes,
Mom and
exactly.
Dad. So, Leanne, do you sense, or Kelly, can you sense when Corine's having some kind of aura, or when something's going on with her? Like, do you know when she's starting to feel like this?
Oh yeah.
She starts to bite her lip.
Does she?
Or tap, or she's like, get me a pen.
Okay. And what do you do with the pen? Do you draw pictures?
Yeah, I haven't done that in a while lately, but usually it's like I'll just start writing like whatever I hear.
Okay.
So like words, number, like whatever I hear, and then because I don't remember it, I'm just being bombarded by all this stuff. So I'll write everything down or explain. Like I know that I speak really quickly in rapid fire mode when I do connect.
So Kelly knows she bites her lip or her tongue, is it?
She bites her lip.
It sounds so attractive, guys.
Her eyes like zoom out.
Right.
And then it's on, and then you're like, okay.
What do you think, Leanne?
An interactive meme of Corine going into her mode.
Corinne mode, is it?
Oh my gosh.
Activate.
Now, let's change gears. I want to go to Bell Island. Can you talk to me about that place? Share me some insight into it. Now, I told you off air why. I won't say on air because I still work for the company. So it gets muddy, right? But you can maybe shed some light on Bell Island to us Newfoundland Labradorians who are listening and anywhere else in the world. You'll see on my logo on the left-hand side, I know in Bell Island there's no lighthouse that looks like that, but that's supposed to be a representative on the left side of Bell Island. But talk to me a little bit about what happened there for you guys. What hit home for you?
Where to begin?
Okay, well, first off, I just want to say that it's pretty sad how little we knew going in to Bell Island about Bell Island. So coming from the West Coast, we knew nothing. Well, I don't think I had ever heard of it until we were coming. And then we got there, and it was like this history, the history of that island and Newfoundland. It should be more well known first and foremost. That's something that I feel is lacking.
Goes way back.
Oh, yes. And Newfoundland and the Maritimes is a place that I've always wanted to go to. I know they've been there, not to Newfoundland, but to the Maritimes before. And so getting out there, first off, the people are amazing. And Bell Island is haunted. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Watch the episode. You'll get that one. It's haunted.
Yeah. And even like getting, like when we were taking the ferry over and just looking at it, you could almost feel it. Like there was something like we're going somewhere powerful. There was an energy before you even arrived. And then we met Henry there. Like he was
Henry.
Yeah, he was one of the first people we chatted with, and he was great. And just kind of standing on the island, and every single person we interacted with had a story, had an experience. So to me, it is just this supernatural island that has everything.
It's very supernatural.
Yeah, and kind of going back to what Kelly said too, we didn't know, and I've been teaching history for 20 some odd years as a high school history teacher, and I did not know anything about Bell Island being, bombed by U-boats. Like,
or Hitler.
Fact check this. Like, I don't think that's legit. So to me, that was shocking to hear that as well.
Did you go in the museum and see Hitler's signature there? That was donated by the captain.
Yeah, went into the museum. The investigations, actually, we were able to, I think we went into the numbers of number 4 and the number 6 mines. Is that the mines we went into?
Sounds like.
And we got to see the museum and talking to Henry and a bunch of people who had worked there. There's definitely some stuff in there. I have to say that, not to spoil the episode, but I think in my entire lifetime, there's only been a handful of times where I've been so overwhelmed by spirit that I just don't understand what's happening, that I didn't want to go. And the mines were one of them.
You were afraid to go down there, or?
There was something, as soon as we entered, it was like I could just hear a voice going like, don't come in here. You're not welcome. Get out. Go. Get away now. Get out of this mine. And I was like, we just got here. And they're like, well, we're going to investigate. I'm like, I don't think we should, guys. Like, it was. Now,
are you referring more to the one that's over in the museum, or the one by the collar where they do the tourism type thing?
the tourism.
The tourism.
Okay. Yeah.
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 There was
So you
something-
didn't go down into the other one off air?
We did, yes. We
What
went
did you feel like down there?
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of
Did they turn the lights off for you?
they kept
No.
some on.
No? They yeah, you should go down there with the lights completely off black. It is a feeling. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
I bet even with the little lights that we had, it was pretty.
Yeah.
You could feel the juju down there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So what about the part where at the end, well, I guess spoiler alert with the lights. I mean, to me, that was profound. And you said yourselves mentioned that. Did you feel that being there personally? How did that feel?
100%. As soon as like we could feel, all of us felt that like something was shifting further down, and it was just like something was coming, and we knew something was going to happen. And it was like, I think it started when we asked, like, is there a spirit here who died in this mine? And it went, I did. And we were like, oh my gosh. And then it just was like one energy. You just feel the waves almost like wind hitting you. Like you just felt the moving past you. And it was absolutely intense. So yeah, that's something that'll stick with us for sure. That one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Thanks for talking about that. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, yeah, it was interesting going into the mine with Corine and having her. I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, maybe I've seen her a couple times like that, but that was one of the maybe 3 times I've experienced her almost not investigate. It doesn't happen. She doesn't get scared. She doesn't freak out. She doesn't quit before we've done an investigation. So for me and Leanne to be like, are we going to be able to do this? Wow. And then all of a sudden Corine's like, okay, you two go out. I'm going to do this. I'm going to see how it is. And then we'll like move from here. And we're like,
that was a big deal. Great. So you mentioned 2 other times. Was there 2 other times where there was a place as profound or, as much?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember quite vividly. We were at the Washoe Club in Virginia City.
Okay.
And Corine just like sat down. We were on that lower floor by the crypt. I don't know if you've been in that one. And I think
I haven't been there, but I've seen a lot of stuff in there. Yeah.
Yeah. She was what I call like rushed, and like everyone just came at her and she's like, get me out of here. So I physically had to like get her out of there. And then the best part is it's an abandoned building. It's got no electricity and we had scattered gear everywhere. And Corine's like, okay, now Leanne, you're going to have to go get my gear. I can't go back in. I'm like, oh, good. this is perfect. So
the dynamic is amazing.
So at the Washoe Club, they're literally like one after the other. They were stepping forward. They knew that you could hear them, so they were all there.
It was to explain that situation. It was so overwhelming. Like one of the reasons we went down there was to see, because we'd heard so much about this building, and I'm like, okay, well, let's go see how active it is and what's going on. And from the second you walked in, it was just everything was hitting me, and I don't start shaking violently for no reason, and I couldn't stop shaking. I couldn't get words out. It was just like everything was hitting me. I felt like I was going to pass out, which is so unusual. I was writing frantically. I know Leanne got me to the car, and we're sitting there, and I'm trying to like get all this information written down. And I think some of it the next day when we talked to them, some of the staff that worked there, they're like, oh, that's so-and-so upstairs, or that's the lady that used to be there. That's why you tasted that. And all these things were like, oh my gosh, this is overwhelming. Like that building has got some serious energy in that space. All 3 floors. Like it's, yeah. I didn't want to go back in. I sent Leanne.
No, right. So talking about stuff like that, what's all of your all's bucket list that you haven't been to yet? Is there a place that you haven't been to that you really want to get into?
Oh, the list is long.
I'd like to go to, I traveled to Lancaster in the United Kingdom in England back in 2005 or 2006.
Yeah.
And I hadn't really tapped into my abilities at that time. And so I was seeing things and experiencing things. And I was telling my friend, and that friend that I happened to travel with wasn't into any of this stuff. So she was just like, this is weird. Like, why are you saying that? And so I would love to go back and to get into some of the castles and things that are there and experience it with the new lens that I have now. That's something that I'd like to do.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff there for you to look at, Kelly. How about you, Leanne? What's your bucket list?
Yeah, I'm really motivated by like ancient archaeology stuff when I travel. So it's like,
okay.
you know, some of the big places I've been, I've never got to investigate. Same as Kelly from that perspective. But honestly,
are we talking Egypt here, Leanne? Or
yeah, like
yeah.
Corine and I have been, but we never got to like investigate. It was more like,
oh, you need to talk to David Childress. He is an amazing man. I met him over in Edinburgh at the Noe Torres every year has an Edinburgh UFO festival, and he'll give you some really cool insights into ancient technology for sure.
Yeah, that's my jam. At the top of my list right now, as of today, is Skinwalker Ranch.
Oh, me too. Especially the Beyond Skinwalker. It's just literally, pardon the pun, beyond. Like it's amazing. Corine, what's your bucket list?
Yeah, I think at this point, I'm just fascinated by going anywhere that has activity because I'm still just trying to connect with what's out there. But if I was going to go big, I would want to be like, I don't know, let's go big. Roman Colosseum, Tower of London, some big iconic stuff and see what comes through in those big places. That's kind of where I'm at today, I think.
Tower of London and over there. You like the Roman stuff too, hey?
Yeah, as a history teacher, any historic site would be cool for me. And I traveled to South America earlier this year, and there's some places down there that I didn't even think would be a possibility. And there's some places down in Peru and in Argentina that I'd be like, oh yeah, tomorrow, let's go back.
I can't remember. Have you teamed up with Josh yet? Josh Gates?
We have not. Josh
Gates. Josh, if you're listening, man, come and team up with these ladies. You'd love it. And we would love watching you team up with them because he brings people all over to really cool places,
Totally.
But
he's got a great show. Yeah,
he does. So your show is awesome too. Let's talk about where fans can follow you and your show and your socials. Let's give it a shout out so people can find you and watch what you do.
Cool. So our team name is Beyond the Haunting. So on social media, it's at Beyond the Haunting. On Facebook and Instagram are our main ones. You can currently watch History's Most Haunted in Canada on T&E, and you can watch it in the US, the UK, Australia, and New Zealand on Haunt TV.
Okay, perfect. And I'll go ahead and post some of the links there. I don't think y'all have a link tree yet, right?
Yeah, we do, but I can send that to you.
Yeah, that'd be great. So people can see your tree and find all your socials. And is there any other things that you want to share with anybody before we peace out?
Well, if anybody is looking for something to do and wants to meet us, we're going to be in Thunder Bay next week, I guess, already.
Oh, in Ontario.
So Lucky Paranormal is hosting a Paranormal Paracon convention. And so we're going to be there from the 4th to the 6th. So you can join us then. And yeah, stay tuned. We've got some other projects in the works we can't really talk too much about, but look for us soon for more and exciting things in process.
And any other teasers you want to give to the fans? Yeah, their lips are closed.
Honestly, we just feel like we're just starting and the momentum's building. So even though it's been, a process to get to where we are, we feel like we're ready for something big. So.
Well, we're going to say goodbye to the fans and thank you so much for being on. And we're going to do a quick off-air wrap before we hang up on the recording. But I want to give you guys the opportunity to say goodbye to everybody and your fans listening.
Thanks for following us.
Yeah. Right.
Thanks so much for tuning in and following us and joining us on our journey. And yeah, stay tuned. Like I said, we've got some fun stuff coming up.
Okay, everybody, make sure you follow all the ladies here, Corine, Leanne, and Kelly, with Beyond the Haunting Investigations. Stay spooky, everybody.
Bye.